Well, good morning, everybody. Today I'm going to touch on four fields of law that affect your websites. And well, you guys already know me, so all I'm going to get to here is the presentation today is just general legal information, not to be taken as legal advice or an attorney client relationship. So let's talk about websites. Websites need to be compliant with advertising law, privacy law, intellectual property law, and ADA law, of course, among other things, according to what your business and your service is. This is industry agnostic. All these laws do apply. If you have a website, you are considered to be advertising nationally and internationally. So, our national advertising falls under the enforcement of the Federal Trade Commission, and the FTC requires that all your marketing campaigns, everything included in your marketing campaign, be legally compliant before you launch publicly, including your website. So let's talk about advertising law for a quick minute. As you all probably know, being in this world, it basically is consumer protection against false, misleading, fraudulent advertising. And some of the claims that do come up often are unfair advertising. Unsubstantiated claims is constantly being litigated, excuse me. There's a lot of false advertising, deceptive advertising lawsuits. So obviously made in the USA, just so that you know, is the standard is all or almost all. It's both the components of the product and putting it together. So it's labor as well has to be done in the USA. So the bottom line for advertising law is to be transparent, to be honest. And if you're going to make a claim, please make sure that you can support that claim. And different businesses need to do different things depending on what the claim is and how to support that claim. You may need to have a lab report, you may need to have surveys, they may need to have different things to support it. So, but the most important thing is to be transparent, because the whole point of advertising, right, is to build trust with your target audience. So if your marketing campaign gets your brand into trouble, is that building trust? No, right? So that's the whole point of being legally compliant, so that you can build that trust by being honest and transparent with your target audience. And of course, everything and anything that is in a marketing campaign must be reviewed before being launched publicly. So moving on to another part of your website, terms and conditions or terms of use. Call it whatever you want. It's basically the same thing. And the most important thing to keep in mind about this is that it's the legally binding contract between your business and the end user of your website. So, and this is, you guys can find these everywhere and anywhere. So it's on websites, it's in the apps, it's on software, search engines. I'm sure you've seen plenty of these. And I hate to tell you this, but you kind of really need to read them, because you need to know what you are legally binding yourself to, right? So the same thing for your websites. It is a legally binding contract of the do's and the don'ts of what people can do on your website. And it's really, really important, because if you copy from another website, you're not really protecting your business, because you're bringing in somebody else's terms and conditions that may not be applicable to you at all whatsoever. So then how are you protecting yourself? Also, if you're just going to use a template that you found online and you're not an attorney, how do you know that the language in there is actually protecting you? You need to know what needs to go in this, and I write them based on the business. What does the business need to protect? All companies need to have them. Doesn't matter what you do, service, business, how big, how small, doesn't matter where you're located. If you have a website, you need these. Next is your privacy policy statement. Let's talk about this for a little while. They are legally required. And unfortunately, in the US, we have a mishmash of privacy laws, but federally, it is legally enforced by the Federal Trade Commission. And among, it depends on what the service of the practice, may also include other federal agencies along with the state agencies, just like the advertising law, right? So you have the federal agencies and you have the state general counsel's office around the country that are enforcing as well. These are legally requirement. There are different laws. A lot of them are conflicting, which is kind of like a headache when you write these. How do you become compliant, right? So like GDPR, for example, you might not be legally liable for your, if there's a third party breach, question mark, right? It depends how you're legally compliant on the back end, and if you did everything that you were supposed to do and you crossed your I's and dotted your I's and crossed your T's. However, for CCPA, the language is different, whereas you could be held liable. So it conflicts, it has a potential conflict with GDPR. And basically, what you're using the legal policy, the privacy policy for, is to tell people what kind of PII you're collecting and the purpose of collecting that. So it's your legal duty to protect whatever information you collect, even if it's a very simple form where people sign up to, it's a contact form, just name and email address. You just collected PII, which is personal identifiable information. And that information needs to be protected on the back end. Excuse me. So for privacy, you need to be compliant on the front end by having the policy on your website that informs this end user of your website what you collect, why you're collecting it, the purpose, who you're sharing it with, what third parties, and so on and so forth. Whereas the back end, when you collect the information, you need to know where it is, how it's, and how to find it quickly and how to protect it, especially from a breach. Age of consent is really interesting. Under COPA, which is our federal law for kids, privacy, it protects kids from 13 and under. And if your business does anything, it targets kids, you need to make sure that you are compliant with COPA. CCPA, however, has a new section that protects kids between 13 and 16. And then for GDPR, interestingly, although it is the, let's call it the federal EU type of law, they decided to let the age of consent be based from country to country, because basically each country does kind of have their own rules as well. So cookies are extremely important to have as they greet your guests when they land on your page. And the importance of the cookies is A, of course, they're legally required. B, you need to inform them of their options of what kinds of level of consents they can give. So, for example, under the GDPR, it is absolutely illegal to block out your page until somebody clicks on agree to the cookies. Okay. Whereas under CCPA, you are allowed to do that. If that's fine, that's not a legal problem, technically. But I wouldn't recommend it because you don't know who is on the other side of your website. So if you have somebody from the EU landing your webpage, technically you could have a problem for blocking your webpage from usage if you don't agree to the cookies. I'm one of those people that I don't click on the cookies unless I'm forced to, which means if I don't click on the cookies, then they can track me as long as I'm on that website, period. Once I leave that website, they're done tracking me. They cannot follow me. They cannot send me anything done. And I purposely don't click on these because I get enough junk mail. I don't need more.
Audrey, you have five minutes left.
Okay. For kids, you need parental consent. I'm going to pick it up. So this is a quick list of what we have in the Americas. As you can see, we have an incredible amount of laws, not just in the USA. Europe has a whole lot of them, on top of the GDPR. Asia. I want to touch on intellectual property real quick. The reason why I review intellectual property on the marketing campaigns, especially on your websites, is I want to make sure you're not infringing on anybody else's copyright or trademark or patent. Or if you have intellectual property that needs to be protected, please protect it before you launch publicly, because once you launch publicly, it becomes harder to protect that if you haven't filed for that protection. I also file for clearances. So if you're in love with the music in that commercial that you have to have, you need to file, like I file the clearances to make sure you have the ability, the right to use it. Let's talk about ADA law real quick. This is huge because the increase in lawsuits for ADA is insanity. So you need to have good faith language on the front end, but the back end is where the work is done. And you basically have four ways of being compliant. Number one, do nothing, which means you're not compliant. And of course, you are opening up yourself for a lawsuit. Number two, you can do what's called a widget or an overlay. An overlay is one line of coding that goes one on top, but that in 2020, there were 78 federal cases filed just with that purpose. So whereas before you could have been technically legally compliant by having your language and having the one word, one sentence of coding, now you don't meet the requirements anymore, because unfortunately, apparently some of these overlays are not working with the screen readers that sight impaired and hearing impaired people are using to maneuver through websites. And as you can see, I just threw this in real quick. And what they do is they target different industries per week. So every week is a slew of letters that go out saying you're not compliant, you have 10 days to get compliant. Most people don't know what that means. So by the time they figure it out, they're in court. I know I'm running out of time, so I'm going to stop here. But of course, I'm open for questions. Thank you so much for this opportunity and for your attention.
Okay, we have a question. Thank you. We have a question from Victor. If you are promoting a product, for example, on social media, do you have to disclose if you have a financial interest in the product?
Absolutely. That is called a material disclosure. Material connection disclosure. Absolutely. If you're getting paid to write a review or promote a product, and pay does not necessarily mean money. If you're getting the product for free, if you're have any other kind of arrangement, then there is a material connection that must be disclosed. And depending on what the product or service is, there's very stringent language that the FTC requires.
Okay. Do you want any follow-up questions on that, Victor?
No, I'm good. Thanks. Thanks, Audrey.
Sure, of course. Anybody else have questions? I know I threw out 4 fields of law here, so.
It covers.
Just out of curiosity, the ADA compliance, how do you know if your website is ADA compliant, or what does that mean? I mean, does that mean it's in, I don't know what that means.
Okay, so the ADA compliance, I'm sorry, I didn't have a whole lot of time to go into it. So there are different, like I have a program, I have a widget that I use that I run a report on your website that tells me how legally compliant you are. And then I use that to work with you in whoever you want to use to get legally compliant on the back end. Now, like I said, you have 4 options to become legally compliant. So number 1, obviously, is do nothing, which still opens you up for lawsuits. Number 2 is making sure that you work with a company, or if you have somebody who knows how to do the alt text and bring your wording and your content and your photos all up to code for, legal compliance for the ADA. There's very specific rules that need to be applied to the back end content and to everything else. And of course, the other one was the widget and the one line of code, but now they're targeting those as lawsuits. So those are being targeted for lawsuits now. So whereas before I was like, at least you got something. Now I'm like, let's be careful with what you're putting on there. And it's better to try to fix things in the back end.
So,
Ken, I'm gonna guess by your facial expression when you asked the question, you had the same thought that I did. That when I think about ADA, and I don't mean to be myopic about it, but when I think about ADA, I think about wheelchair ramps
Right, yeah.
and elevator buttons and so on. I don't think about the website element. And through a conversation with Audrey, and Audrey, listen, I don't mean to speak for you. I'm not an attorney. I don't play one on TV. Sorry for the throwaway line. If you have a note, Ken, that says, click the green button below, you are not ADA compliant for people who are colorblind.
Right.
Which, yeah, I get it. Seems odd to me that somebody would be able to take you to court for that, but I guess it fits. And Audrey, I think the other piece I'll offer, sorry, before you respond to that, the other piece that I'll offer is, the notion of you got to make sure it's true. Forgive the soapbox. I love that. A client of mine said, we're the only ones in the world who do this. And my response was, really? The world's a big place. Have you done an exhaustive search to make sure that you're the only one who does it? And if you haven't, where's the Gartner research? Where's the independent third-party research that you've commissioned that verifies that? And clients don't have that. They don't do it. So anytime a client says we're the only ones in the world who do this, not so much.
I do ask for all that supporting documentation when I review. So if you don't have supporting documentation and you're not willing to get it, which unfortunately would delay your campaign from being launched publicly, then we reword things to avoid that potential conflict. Now, going back to the ADA real quick, a couple of things you guys seem to be aware
actually,
of.
I'm gonna cut it off because we're way over, and I want to give everybody a chance for.
Just one more thing, just this is
Tell you
all.
what, Michael, I'll concede my time to Audrey.
Go ahead, Audrey.
Okay, just real quick. All these lawsuits are coming about based on case law, but there is federal legislation to put it into the ADA law, which is 50 years old. So you can imagine 50 years ago, we didn't have the knowledge, the forethought of including online compliance. So all these lawsuits are being won, believe it or not, and it's all based on case law. Okay, I'll stop there. If anybody else has questions, I do offer a 30-minute free legal consultation. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer questions and point you in the right direction. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Audrey, and thank you, Victor, and Ken for your questions, and Dan for your added texture. So I think we have enough time for 2 minutes each. Let's see, we have, 4 by 3, 12 minus 1, 11 times, yeah, that should do it. And I put in the chat the order in which we'll go based on when people showed up. And today, if people would add a little color by saying what they've done recently for a client that they're proud of, that would be helpful, and I think it adds color and makes your pitch more memorable. So, Steve, you are up. I will move to a gallery mode so everybody else, speaker view, so everybody else please go on mute. And I will show you my timer at 2. Go ahead, Steve.
Thanks, Michael. Audrey, great presentation. Having been in the agency side of the world for the past 20 years, I'm very familiar with everything you talked about. And you basically, glazed over, a dump truck full of amazing information. So thank you for being so succinct with that. I've had clients that have had, they call them surf-by suings, kind of like a drive-by shooting, but, they find a website and they think it's a big ticket company and they take them to court for not being ADA compliant. It's a train wreck. So definitely, due diligence is imperative there. My agency experience for 20 years has prompted me to launch a consultancy recently, about 5 months ago, where I work with owners of creative digital marketing and PR firms to help their agencies run more smoothly, more profitably, and most importantly, help them find the balance in their life from ownership to family and personal time. Talking about painting color, how's the color green? The first client that I signed on about 2-3 weeks after I opened the consultancy, within a short amount of time, we've increased his profitability by about 7%, which seems like a small number, but 7% is pretty substantial in annual profitability numbers. So really proud of that. Business has been exciting. I'm looking to talk to any owner of any size agency up to about 60 people. That's my sweet spot. If I go any bigger than that, it's really out of my realm of experience. And the agencies that I work with are creative, digital, marketing, and PR firms. And also happy to make any connections that I can to help anybody grow their businesses. And that's it. Thanks.
Wonderful. Perfect timing. Okay. Let's see who is next. That would be Ken Simon. Ken, you're up.
Hi, that was a very interesting presentation, Audrey, and thank you. I have been involved with developing websites, and I guess ADA compliance was not something that we thought of. So we'll have to look into that, for future. I won't probably say look at the blue color link down here to do that, but privacy in terms of conditions are always like, things that like drove everybody crazy. But now I have to worry about ADA compliance too. So that's something else. I come from the corporate world, but I've been doing consulting since 2016, working with small and mid-sized businesses. And I've been involved with helping them develop websites. So that's not my area of expertise or where I'm really going for. I help companies with strategic marketing, helping them identify who their customers are, what they're looking for, and then what markets they should go after, and then developing the strategies for them to go after those markets and those customers, whether it be digital or online or offline, whatever it might be, whatever the best way to do it is. I've helped companies, like one of the things I'm proud of is I helped a customer who was a startup. I helped them grow their business. So now they're in 7 states, and they're a financial service lender, and now they do about $15 million, anywhere between $10 and $15 million worth of loans a month. When I first started with them, they were doing about $1 million worth of loans a month. So I help them grow their business. And I'm looking for companies who are looking to grow, who don't know who their customers are, or just looking to engage with their customers in multiple industries.
Okay, thank you so much. Next up would be, let's see. So it's Ken, then Jane, then Bryce, then Mark. Jane, you're up.
Hi there. I am also in Florida. I'm down here in Sarasota, and I was with Sprint in corporate communications for a long time and did a lot of ADA compliant work on all our websites, our microsites, any promotional sweepstakes that had to be done. So I know it's critically important. I'm a consultant now, doing anything in the marketing and PR communication sphere, including editing some books and helping people develop their messaging, developing the ways that they decide to go out and promote themselves. I think the most, and I have to say that, Audrey, when you talk about making sure people are transparent and honest, I think anybody who's been in PR and marketing has had lots of situations where you have a client saying, we're unique, we're the first, we're the only. And I was always one of those marketing people who would raise my hand and say, wait a minute, before I get on the phone with a reporter, I need to know if that is really true. And it's usually not. And you end up having to go back to one of the only or one of the most. And unique is a word that I hate to use. So the thing I'm probably most proud of in the last month or so was talking a UK business out of making huge announcements about their launch into the United States, because when we really drilled down in writing a press release, found that they really didn't have the goods. They couldn't answer a lot of the questions that I said would probably be asked. And so I actually talked them out of a project. I talked myself out of a project, and they're going to delay their US launch until they get some more of their ducks in a row. So sometimes strategic marketing plans have you telling people what not to do.
That's great. Yep, clearly important to know where your client should take a step back. Okay, Bryce, then Mark, then Patrick. Bryce, you're up.
Thanks, Michael. Great presentation, Audrey. So my name is Bryce Wade. I'm VP of Sales at Mind of a Marketer. So we're a digital marketing company. We do some unique things with traffic, but we also have a new product that's more geared towards enterprise level clients that basically saves them a bunch of money on PPC, their PPC spend. We generally think we can save companies about 10% of their ad spend. We've got some Fortune 100 companies now on this product, and some of them are just saving like ungodly amounts of money. I'm going to do a presentation about this in March, but Steve and Jane, judging by what you guys said, I think we should have a conversation because there might be some opportunity to make some money together, because this is a pretty powerful product. And yeah, I got some amazing info on it, but I'm not going to take too much time. I don't want to dive into it here. But if anybody has connections to either large marketing companies that have clients like that, that spend probably about 100,000 or more in PPC a year, yeah, let's have a conversation. Thanks.
100K or more per year. Okay. Good target. Okay. Who did I say was next?
Me.
Let's see. Okay, Mark, go for it.
All righty. Hi, Mark Tebow. Let's see, something I did recently actually had nothing to do with my practice, but I am SEMrush certified, and I actually walked a client through SEMrush, and they actually bought the package. So I was pretty excited about that. So they bought the professional practice, and so that made me feel good. It didn't get me any money, but hey, what the heck. But anyway, what I do, actually, I'm not all that much different than what Ken does. Maybe I'm a little further toward the front. So, I mean, really what I do, I have had a great relationship with Kevin because what he does emotional branding. I don't do branding, but what I do is positioning, go-to-market strategies, competitive analysis, and I do it both quantitatively and qualitatively. And
Oh, shoot. I muted you, trying to mute somebody else. Unmute yourself, Mark.
there.
Sorry.
So I don't know where I ended up, but basically, so I basically up in the front end, I do a lot of work, both quantitative and qualitative, and I love interviewing people. That's something I really enjoy doing. So I'll go out and talk to competitors, customers, anybody you want, and that's what I do.
Okay, you have 27 seconds left, and I know you do a lot of that for PE companies who are
Private equity groups. A lot of my referrals are attorneys and accountants, but yeah, no, I do some work for private equity and small investment banks, but I also have some private clients too.
okay. So Patrick, Victor, then Dan. Patrick, you were up.
Hi, good morning. And thank you also, Audrey. Every time you speak, there's a little bit of nugget of knowledge that I pull out. So thanks. So I'm Patrick Sasso. Loop 7 is the company. We're a multimedia production company, video, photography, and music. We take projects from concept to production, and we can do all in-house if needed, depending on budgets. We usually work with small ad agencies and corporate marketing departments, and we produce commercial advertising and also social media content. I'm the chief creative officer, which just means I do pretty much what's needed Sometimes I film or direct, and sometimes I'll do some consulting. We're very brand and story conscious, so we work best really as a partner, where we can grow and understand the business and the culture a little bit. We are always looking for new CMO and ad agency connections to build these relationships. One thing that I'm proud of recently is kind of something I almost can't wrap my head around. We've been working with Dr. Scholl's for the last, I guess it's been about a year and a half, almost 2 years, through an ad agency. And we've been working on integrating a bunch of things, including some social media content. And my agency partner texted me while he was on this call. He said, "Hey, we're on an interagency call with Dr. Scholl's and the 7 other agencies that they work with. Holy crap. We just got a shout out from their digital media agency that said that the massaging gel video that we created was the best performing piece of paid social that they have ever seen, and not for just Dr. Scholl's." So he sent a thanks for me. That was a huge, proud moment for us, and that was just last month, really. So that was a big one.
That's great. And I believe that agency that you're working with is also a member of the Trusted Referral Network.
Well, actually, no, it's different.
Oh, it's not. Oh, really?
He also works with Dr. Scholl's.
Okay.
But no, this is a totally different agency. They are
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all good.
It's all good. All right. Let's see who's next. Let's see, Patrick. Then Victor, Dan, and Faith, and then Jason. So Victor, you're up.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, everybody. Nice to see all these familiar faces, some new faces. So I'm Victor Lee. I'm here in Central Jersey, and I've just recently taken on a new role as being in charge of marketing for an on-demand elder services app. And I have to give add to the shout outs for Audrey. I had a very good conversation with her when I started this job, and she sent me some very helpful information. So I mean, I'm a lawyer myself by training, but I think it's always good to have somebody who really is an expert in these particular areas. So anyway, the problem we're trying to solve, really applies to potentially to lots of us here on the call, which is that in many cases where we have some responsibility for elder relatives, and they might be more or less independent, but sometimes they need help going to the doctor, or going to visit a friend, or going to get a haircut. Back when we used to get haircuts. So what we do is often, people like us, we have our own responsibilities. We have families, we have jobs, and so sometimes it's tough for us to get there when our aunt needs to get to the doctor. So we've developed an app where essentially you can schedule a doctor visit. We'll give you a list of pre-screened people that you can choose from, and we'll have one of our team take it from there. So they'll take your relative to the doctor. They'll pick up your relative, take it to the doctor, wait for them, and then bring them back safe and sound. So I think it's an interesting concept. So I guess maybe to Michael's question, the thing I'm hoping to be proud of in a few months, because I just kind of started this role, is I think it's a service that seems really critical. Lots of people need this. And it's interesting, and I think a lot of the marketing folks on this call can appreciate this. The folks who developed this are domain experts. I mean, one guy's been an elder advocate for 47 years, right? I think I was in junior high school. And there's a very highly capable technical team who developed the app. The tricky part is getting customers, right? Getting people to use it. And so I'm trying to reorient the thinking. And so one little tidbit, Jane, thanks for the question. Let me connect with you. So one of the tricky parts is that the app is, is out there, and so when we did a small raise in the summer, we're looking at another large raise. And so what's happening is they think of the app, the company as the app. So it's an elder services app. And since I'm the marketing outward, the client facing person, I'm saying, no, it's not an app, it's a service, right? It's brought to you by people, it's created by people. It's not some weird technical thing that sits way off in the cloud someplace. And so trying to get people to reorient they're thinking about the company as a whole has really been an interesting challenge.
Can you put the name of the, or just tell us what the name of the app is or the company?
Sure, it's called Zage, Z-A-G-E, and the website, this is another marketing challenge, the website is GetZage, GetZage.com. I'll put it in the chat also.
Okay.
And Jamie, I'd love to chat with you.
Wonderful. And I think it is Dan, then Faith, and Jason.
So, Michael, thank you, and Audrey, good to see you again. Thanks for the comments. I remember the first time we went through some of the conversation, so appreciate that. Jane, I'm with you on the use of the word very, only to be trumped by clients wanting to say very historic, very unique. Something is either unique or it's not, it's historic or it's not. And try as I may to edit clients' work, somehow that always creeps back in. Prove it, prove that it's historic or unique at all, let alone the word very. And frankly, my view is let the value proposition stand on its own. Point to it and show it, don't tell it. And so in that regard, business to business communications, public relations, and I don't necessarily have it to show today, but Michael, you mentioned at the top something that we're proud of. I don't know that I'd say proud of, but on a consistent basis, delivering for a client. And in fact, we have a press release going out tomorrow morning for one of my clients. I assure you, unless you read the insurance trades, you won't see it. You won't know it. Frankly, you won't care about it. But my client does care about it, and they want the readers of those publications to see that news. So with any luck, skill, if I'm any good at what I do, we'll see this news in a couple of insurance outlets tomorrow morning. Insurance, InsurTech, business to business communications. And have a great day.
Thank you.
Michael, I hope I made up some time there for you.
No, you did a little bit. You still have a minute left, but anything you want to add?
No, I'm all good. I'm all good.
Okay. Let's see. Who did I have next? I had Faith, then Jason. Faith, you're up. Faith, you still with us? Maybe on mute. Did you drop off?
Faith, you're on mute.
Oh, there
Okay,
you go.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? My name is Faith Thomas. I just joined this week, so I'm not sure what's happening here, but my consulting is on verbal communications, and I work both independently and with branding and design firms in the verbal parts of projects, which entails copywriting, positioning, messaging, name development, and any kind of brand strategy that would be required. I've been on my own since 1990 after a series of jobs with running firms, and I got tired of being laid off. And my specialty is really collecting the essence of a message and putting it down very succinctly. I write the way that I talk, which is directly and to the point. And I'm very pleased to be in this group and make some other connections. I'm a generalist with experience in a broad range of industries. And recently I renamed a nonprofit that had some real technical problems communicating with their market because they were the friends of a charity overseas, and the charity's name sounded like an Arabic name instead of an Israeli one, and so came up with a new name that was highly successful. So I welcome any conversations.
Great. And you were actually Howard Levy from Red Rooster recommended you, and actually we've known each other for a while anyway, and Howard also joined recently.
And he worked on that same name project, so if he gives the same example, then
well, he's not on the call right now, but
okay. Well, he did the logo, I did the name, so
thank you and welcome.
thank you.
Okay, Jason Cement.
Hi, Jason Cement. I'm out here in Los Angeles. I run an agency called Get Visible. Most of our team is actually in Phoenix, where my partner is. We have about 15 people working for us. We do three things. We build websites, which can be either WordPress or e-commerce stuff. Then we get rankings and manage ad campaigns and do social media exposure. We have writers that we hire, and we have 2 writers on staff to write blogs and infographics, all that kind of stuff. So we're like a full service agency. I think the part of my identity that's more relevant to this group is a different company I invested in about over 15 years ago. We put millions of dollars into a platform that can really be utilized to start at third base. If someone comes to you and says, I need something to be done where there's an online component to it, we can productize a solution very quickly. So it could be an e-commerce application, it could be a point of service sale, it could be a membership system. I mean, we have one project now, since I have a minute. Somebody put together a database of all the people that were killed or kidnapped and killed by Stalin. So there's like 3.5 million names so far in the database, and they created a map around the world where these people used to live before they were taken. And so there's plaques all over Asia and Europe with their names on it. So they used our system to create this application type of thing. Totally not typical. Apparently there's the same thing in Europe for the Holocaust. So not to use these sad examples, but we have a very, we're calling it rapid, we're developing a new site called Axle Code around this framework. So it's basically a rapid production development framework. So that's it. Thank you.
That's great. Okay. And I will chime in here. Don't know why I don't come up as the speaker in speaker view. It must
You're
be
speaking.
something. I am speaking, but I'm not coming up in speaker view. It must have been I'm going to go to gallery view because otherwise I'm hidden. Okay. So my name is Michael Bendit, and my company is Software Development Resources. Pretty straightforward in terms of the name. My background is I've been working on the business side of technology for pretty much my entire career. And that means sales, marketing, and consulting. And I still do a little bit of consulting work. So I represent 10 different development teams. They're technically focused, but we do a lot of work with marketing applications, marketing agencies bring us a lot of work. And then we also do work with startups. And people come to me when they're not really sure how to get the resources they need. And there's so many factors that you need to sort of, calculate into this. What type of platform? Do they have any perhaps domain expertise in the space? Is it a mobile app? Should it be a web app? Do I want to be working with a domestic team or a dual shore team or an offshore team? All those things come into play and need to be considered. And that's where I help match the team with the project. Something that I'm pretty proud of is actually helping clients get over that threshold of actually hiring a new team. And a lot of times it has to do with getting them comfortable with what we're going to do for them, how it's going to be different. Sometimes people come to us when they've had a bad experience and they don't want to go through that again. So I recently had a client who came to us after working with essentially two freelancers, or a freelancer and an employee of his. So I guess not quite a freelancer. And it just, they wouldn't sign a contract. It really didn't, it never got to a formal stage. And so he hired a lawyer who actually brought us in. Unfortunately, the lawyer created a very complex contract, and we had to negotiate this, spent a lot of time working on negotiating it, but got to a point where he began to feel comfortable with, okay, these guys are not going to cheat me. And so we've been working with them for about 8 months now, and it's going very well. I mean, usually when you take over from another team, there are some rough spots, but you work through those. And I don't promise that we'll do everything flawlessly. I tell people, listen, there's going to be rough spots, but we'll get through it. I don't think everybody here has. Well, first of all, I didn't miss anybody, right? Okay. I don't think everybody here has claim their listing on the trustref.net website. If you haven't done that, please do so. I can tell whether you've claimed it or not based on whether you filled in some certain things, things like the number of employees, your average project size, because those are required fields. So if you have any problems doing that, please let me know. I'm happy to help you out. Dan is laughing because
Michael, as you well know, and I'll here's where I'll take my 1 minute back and give everybody a little bit of comic relief. As Michael knows, not only was I able to claim my domain registration, so on, I was able to do it twice.
Yeah.
And the system auto-generated a response that basically said, and Michael, I'm going to paraphrase here, that basically said, "Hey, listen, smart guy, 1 per customer." So Michael was very gracious in helping me through that. I have yet to dig in, but I will tell you, I really like Michael. I like the format of it. I like the feel of it. I like the searchability of it. It might sound odd for me to say, given that I haven't really dug into it yet, but we're all part of different groups, and if only we knew what we all know, if only we knew who's really all here. And without some kind of organization such that you've got on your website, it's a mess, or other groups can be a mess. And so thank you for bringing that structure and sanity to it. I appreciate structure. I should say structure and sanity, not structured insanity. That was Jane. That one was for you with the importance of words.
I appreciate you making that clear. Yeah, so that's the point of the website. It is to help people find others in the network who they might want to connect with, or might want to ask a question. And you can get directly. In fact, I will bring up maybe I can bring up Dan's listing. So here's the website, and if I do a search for Prince. Make this, I'll expand this so it doesn't look weird like that. There's Prince Communications. And I'm actually from trying this from within. I signed in under software development resources. Dan, I'm going to fix this. This is not centered vertically, but I'll fix that for you. And if I go to his page, then I can contact him, either phone, email, or see his website. And if you added LinkedIn, I'd also have a LinkedIn button here. So if you add that to your profile, your LinkedIn or your any other social media that you want people to access, it'll show up under your picture. And then to do this, of course, look under help. So that shows you how to get your account, claim your account, and then how to set up your listing, or how to customize your listing. Everybody in the group already has a basic listing. But for example, if I go to public relations, I'll see who hasn't. So Dan, Prince Communications, is the only one that has actually claimed their listing because I see this information here. And by the way, Dan says that if you send him a project, he will pay you 10% referral fee. So, and his average project sizes are about $90,000. So if you have any questions, please reach out. Don't be shy. And also always looking for ways to improve and make this even more powerful for you as a networking group, and also looking for new members. So if you do work with agencies, individuals who you think would be a good fit, send them my way. And you could also send them to the website so that they get a sense for what it's all about. I would recommend sending them to the About page, of course, and there's a membership sublisting there. And that's really, that explains what we're all about. So thank you, everybody. We only have 2 minutes left. Any final comments, questions?